Hi everyone, and thank you for joining us for this home buying webinar in partnership with Catalyst Housing. I'm Jade Turnstill from Share to Buy, and I'll be hosting today's session alongside Steve Pickering from Catalyst and Clarke from Meridian Mortgages, who are going to talk you through why now is the right time to buy and offer a bit of step-by-step guide to buying your first home through shared ownership and Help to Buy. However, before I pass over to our speakers, I just wanted to run through some quick housekeeping with you. Firstly, our experts are going to do their presentations before opening up to a live Q&A session, which will last around 10 minutes. So if you have any questions for our experts, feel free to pop them in the chat tool to the right-hand side of your screen, where you'll see an icon with a couple of little speech bubbles, and we'll get through as many as we can at the end of the session. It's also worth keeping an eye on the offers and files tabs to the right-hand side, as we'll also be sharing some links and downloadable content with you throughout the session. Today's webinar will also be recorded and shared with you all, so don't worry if you happen to miss any of the important information along the way. We'll make sure you have access to the recording after the session has ended. And that's pretty much it from me for now. I'll be back at the end of the presentation for the Q&A, but in the meantime, I'll pass you over to Steve from Catalyst.
Thanks, Jade. So yes, my name's Steve Pickering and I'm Senior Sales Manager at Catalyst Housing. So I'm going to be looking at some of the buying options that could be available for you, as well as giving you some tips and advice around searching for your new home. I'll later be joined with Clarke, who will be looking at the mortgage side of things. So to start things off, tell you a little bit about Catalyst Housing. So we are one of the UK's leading housing associations. We've got around 34,000 homes in London and the home counties, and we offer a wide range of housing products, which I'll touch on shortly. So, is now the right time to buy? So here's some evidence from Rightmove, Zoopla and Nationwide, just around the housing market at the moment. So Rightmove say it's been the busiest month for 10 years as home buying supersedes summer holidays. So August is usually a quieter period for buying a house. People are often away for the summer holidays, but this year it's been very different and we've seen a really busy August. Nationwide say house prices recover from the recent dip to reach an all-new time high in August. So obviously these dipped in April time with everything going on and lockdown, but these have now bounced back now. And Zoopla say the market shows no sign of losing momentum. Share to Buy have actually said they saw a 100% increase in this year, August, compared to last year as well. So there are certainly a lot of people out there buying that think it is now the right time to buy. That's exactly what we've seen. So between June and August, we've helped almost 100 buyers move into their new home safely. This has obviously been done in a slightly different way. So we've been doing contactless completions, where the purchasers wouldn't actually be in contact with our sales exec at any point, just to protect ourselves and them. We've also reserved over 150 properties. This again has been done in a slightly different way. So we've had virtual tours have been a lot more popular than we've ever used before, and I will touch on those a little bit later as well. So over the next few slides, we'll be looking at the schemes that are designed to help you get onto the property ladder, how much you're able to borrow, and that will be with Gary, and then I'll come back and give you a bit more about tips about how you should search for your perfect home. So at Catalyst, we offer a range of schemes which are designed to help you get onto the property ladder. Firstly, shared ownership. So this is a great scheme for first-time buyers or people looking to take the next step onto the property ladder. You purchase a share from between 25 to 75% share, and you will get a mortgage and a deposit for that share. The remaining share that you don't purchase, you will pay rent on. Obviously, the more you purchase, the less the rent will be, but the higher the mortgage and the deposit would be needed. A great benefit of shared ownership is you only need a deposit for the share you're buying. So it really is an affordable way to get onto the property ladder. Once you've reserved and once you've purchased and moved in, later down the line, you can do a thing called staircasing, which is where you can buy more shares of a property. As you buy more shares, you'll obviously own more and the rent will be reduced. So it's a really good way of taking that first step onto the property ladder, or buying a bigger property if you can't quite afford it on the open market. The other option, which again is incredibly popular, is Help to Buy. So there's two different Help to Buy products, one of them for inside London, where you can get an equity loan of up to 40%, and one outside of London, where you get an equity loan of up to 20%. So There's a little breakdown of costs there. So based on a £200,000 property, you would need the 5% deposit of the full property value. So in this case, it would be 10%, unlike shared ownership where you need the share value. You would then get a government loan of 20%, so in this case 40,000, and you would need to get a mortgage for the 150,000. It's good to note that this is the current Help to Buy scheme, and this is actually coming to the end at the end of March. So if you're interested in this, you would need to have reserved by the 15th of December and have your property information form submitted by then, and complete before the 31st of March. So something to bear in mind. All right, I will now pass you over to Gary, who has been waiting patiently, and he'll give you a little bit of information about what you can borrow.
Thanks, Steve. My name is Gary Clarke. I'm with Meridian Mortgages. Just to tell you a little bit about Meridian Mortgages, we are experts in new build, and we specifically focus around the shared ownership and the Help to Buy schemes. We're here to see you through from the very first inquiries to figuring out your affordability, through to your mortgage application, to mortgage offer, and ultimately onto completion of your new property. Some of the things that we do is that we don't charge fees for our services, so you'll be able to speak to us without any additional cost. And we have a very close relationship with Catalyst and many other builders, which in the current market help you smooth out any bumps in the road. How much you're able to borrow will depend on a number of different factors. So the most obvious of which is your income, but there's also the outgoings that you have, so committed expenditure, loans, credit cards, car finance, all will play a part in that. There are, generally speaking, three affordability calculations that are affected. So there will be what the lenders will allow you to borrow. There will also be what the scheme will allow you to borrow, as they will have their own limits as well. And then, of course, the most important fact, which is what you feel that you can do and what's manageable to you. One of our best pieces of advice here is that quality of information that we get from you is absolutely key to the whole process. The better the quality of the information, the better planning we have, and the more likely we are to be successful, and the figures that we give you will be as accurate as they can possibly be. So if we move on to our next slide just here. So once we've discussed with you what the potential affordability is, we would then seek to get you an agreement in principle. The agreement in principle will give you either a pass or a fail. And if we get a pass, we know that the credit score is good enough for the lenders to be able to lend to you in principle. And from there, as long as we can prove your identity, as long as we can prove your income, there's no reason why we should think that we wouldn't get a mortgage offer. In order for us to be able to do that, in order for us to be able to get the initial agreement, to get the initial affordability calculation right and to subsequently get an agreement in principle, we would need good details of your total income, also details of your regular expenditure as well. And again, just to re-emphasize the point, the more accurate these details are, the better the quality of information we'll be able to give back to you. Bear in mind, our biggest priority is getting you into the house and making sure that you can move into your new home with your family. Please also bear in mind that the size of your deposit and your credit rating do have an impact on the amount the lenders are willing to loan to you. And if I just move on to our next slide just here, there will be, we're going to put up a link to our live web chat facility where you'll be able to speak to our advisors, and our advisors will then be able to give you some answers to any questions that you have, or even book in some time to give you a call back and go over things in a bit more detail to get you on the way towards purchasing a new home. That's all from me for now, but I'll see you guys at the Q and answer session, and I'm going to hand you back to Steve just now. So thank you very much for listening.
Thank you, Gary. So now once you know you're able to afford a property and you've spoken to a financial advisor, it will be time to look for what you actually want and what you need. So these questions obviously are different for everyone. Everyone has different priorities. So to start your search, the best place to start is how many bedrooms you need. There will be a couple of questions around this. There will be a need and a want. So it might be you need a 2-bedroom but would like a 3-bedroom. So on property portals, you can put in a range of properties, so you can view 2 and 3 bedroom houses, for example. It might be that you'd like a 3-bedroom, but actually a 2-bedroom has better living space or parking or something else. There will then be, do you like open plan or a separate living dining room? How many car parking spaces would you require? Would you require a parking space, or are you happy with on-street parking? Are you looking for a garden or balcony? Are you keen to spend time on renovation, or would you want something you'd be able to move straight into? And how many bedrooms would you like? So then once you've got an idea of what your perfect home would be, you need to look at location. So location is obviously crucial in these sort of things. So firstly, would you prefer to live in a city or somewhere rural? Do you need to be close to the station or bus stop? It will be important to think about the future for this as well. So just because now a lot of us are working from home, is there going to be a time where you're going to be back in the office and you're going to need to commute? So you will need to be close to the station. Then would you like to be in walking distance to shops and restaurants, and then catchment area for local schools? Again, this might be a case that it's not important at the moment, but it will be while you're in the property. So it's certainly something to consider. So then once you've done all that, it will be as time to view. And there's several things that would be important to look at when you do start viewing a home. So firstly, the amount of natural light that comes into the room. So another important thing to consider here is the time of year. So if you're viewing now and into the winter months, it might be there isn't much natural light even in the middle of the day. That doesn't necessarily mean that there isn't natural light. It can just be the dark days that we're getting at the moment. Do you think the rooms are big enough for you? And a good tip around this would be to compare them to the current sizes of your current property. And as a lot of us are working from home now, is there space for an office or a desk? So maybe you don't need a full study, but as long as the living room is large enough to have a desk, or your bedroom's large enough to have a desk, and a little area where you can work from home. And on that as well, mobile reception and internet speeds will also be incredibly important, especially with people working from home more and more. The level of storage, something people don't think of quite a lot, but is incredibly important when looking for a property. And then which way does the garden or the balcony face? So some top tips on viewing a home. So a lot of properties that we sell aren't built yet. So we do a lot of things where you don't actually have to come and see the property. So this is great, especially when we had lockdown. We were doing virtual tours, which had huge success, and we had a lot of reservations off the back of it, where we were basically showing people around our show homes from the comfort of their own home. So we would be able to have a virtual tour of one of our show homes. They would be able to click around and see exactly what they would be seeing if they were there in person. There is going to be a link put on the side now where you'll be able to have a look and have a play around this. This is something that we started in lockdown particularly, but we are using it going forward. There's several advantages for it, whether it's people not feeling comfortable in leaving their home yet, or whether it's work commitments, meaning they can't come to the marketing suites, or whether it's just they don't live in the area and it's a bit of a journey. They can at least see the property first of all and help narrow down their search. So if you are able to make the trip out, you can go to one of our show homes. These are fully safe. We've got PPE and there is cleaning in between every appointment. We do ask that the execs and yourselves wear face masks when coming in, as you would do in any shop. We also have track and trace in place. The go in to see a show home is the best way to get a feel for a development. You can see the development as a whole, not just the individual plot. So you can have a little walk around and see all of it. So this is definitely the best way to see a property if you're comfortable with it. If the show home isn't completed yet, we do have several developments where we launch before a show home is ready. We have computer generated images which will show you the property and the specification. And again, that's a really good way of getting to see the property before anything's even built. So why buy a new home? So there are several advantages in buying a new home. Firstly, you can use schemes such as shared ownership and help to buy. Shared ownership you can use on existing properties, but they are few and far between. So the best way for a shared ownership property is to buy a new build. Help to buy is only available on new build properties. You also get a contemporary design and features. You get the best modern specification and appliances. The homes come as a blank canvas, so you can decorate them however you like. There is no need for large-scale renovations. You move in and everything's brand new, so you don't need to worry about changing a kitchen in the next few years. You will need to. You aren't part of a chain, so you'll be able to move in within 6 to 8 weeks if you don't have anything to sell. Built to the latest health and safety standards, which is obviously incredibly important, and you get a 10-year NHBC warranty or 2-year homeowner warranty. So this really gives you confidence that you're buying a product that you're not going to need to replace something on in the next few years. So why choose Catalyst? We built thoughtfully designed new homes and layouts that are constructed with the demands of modern living in mind. So we have a wide range of properties. So we have something to suit everyone, whether it's a big family home or your first time studio apartment. Our homes are built with expert craftsmanship right the way down to the finishing touches. And our developments are carefully considered to include open social spaces to encourage a sense of community. And we do really look at a local area when we're designing our developments, so that we try and fit the needs and the demand for that area. We also have a dedicated staff of sales execs. So we have loads of sales execs who will be more than happy to hear from you and take any questions and give you advice. So there's a few of our friendly faces on your screen now, some of the developments I'll be discussing in a moment. We can also offer a range of incentives. So these aren't available altogether, and they aren't available on every development. So do speak to your sales executive who'll be able to give you more information. But some of the incentives we do give are a deposit contribution, legal fees, furniture packages, and moving costs. So these are obviously huge costs when it comes to moving home. So they're really hugely beneficial to first-time buyers, especially things like furniture packages. The amount you can spend on furniture really does add up. So it just means that you can maximise the amount you're able to afford. Added to this, there is also the stamp duty holiday at the moment where you can save up to 15,000. So that's run until the end of March. That has certainly seen a surge in house sales, and stamp duty is something a lot of people don't consider when looking for homes, but it is a huge cost. And like I say, you can save up to 15,000 between now and the end of March. We also offer other schemes such as part exchange or assisted move if you currently own a property that you need to sell. So speak to our sales executives and we'll be able to discuss that more with you. So now I'll just move on and we will look at some of our developments. So these are just a few of our developments that we have. Both of these are available for shared ownership. So Arrow is in Southall with studios, 1 and 2 bedroom apartments. They're available from a 25% share. We've then got Nova, which has 1, 2 and 3 bed apartments, and these are again shared ownership but available from a 40% share. There is going to be a link on the side, so if you are interested in any of these, you'll be able to look at more details in them by choosing the link. We've also got the Lanes in Houghton Regis. So this development hasn't launched yet. So this is going to be a shared ownership development with shares of 40%. So there are 2, 3 and 4 bedroom houses. This is launching on the 7th of November. So if you are interested, you can register now and you'll be invited to the virtual preview event. We've also got Kite Meadows, which has got 4 and 5 bedroom houses currently available under the Help to Buy scheme. We don't have any shared ownership for these at the moment. They have all sold out, but we are looking at another phase. So if you are interested in shared ownership, get in touch as there may be more coming soon. So we're here for you 7 days a week. We've got a marketing team and sales and marketing team that are there in our marketing suites. Not all suites are open 7 days, but many are. Some will be open only 5 days. But even if the marketing suite isn't open, we have dedicated sales execs happy to talk you through. So we offer face-to-face appointments in our marketing suites. We also do virtual appointments if you would rather. So these can be either on the telephone or Zoom or Teams or something like that. If you would like to just look at more details in your own time, we do also have buyer's guides, which there's going to be a link put on the side now. So you can have a look through that if you'd like, and then give us a call if there's anything else you'd wish to discuss. So here are some of the launches which we've got coming up. So there's going to be another link going over to the side. So our first launch is a virtual preview event at the Prince Works next weekend, so next Saturday. So here we've got 2 and 3 bedroom homes in Dunstable available for shared ownership. This is going to be a hugely popular event, and it's something a bit different, doing a virtual launch where we'll be releasing the brochure and the prices as well. So if you are interested on that or any of our developments, you can register online at Catalyst Homes for any of our developments. We've also got the lanes. Again, there's going to be another virtual preview event on the 7th of November, that one. That's got 2, 3 and 4 bedroom homes in Houghton Regis, and they will again be from a 40% share. We've also got the Folium. That one is launching in the winter, so we haven't got a date set for that yet. So that's in Muswell Hill, and we've got 1, 2 and 3 bedroom apartments that will be coming there. So if you are interested in any of the developments I've spoken about, or you want to see our full range, you can register for any of these on our website. Or give us a call. We do have exclusive offers which go out to people who are registered with us. We have schemes such as Plot of the Week, which we send email and SMSs out for. So if you are interested on anything I've spoken about, please register on there. So thank you very much for listening. Hopefully you've sent in your questions, and I'll pass you back now. Thank you.
Hi.
Hey.
Oh, that's great. Thank you so much. We're just going to get Gary back as well. That was really informative. Thank you so much for that. Loads and loads of good information in there. I have been keeping an eye on the chat tool, and we definitely have been having quite a few questions come in. So we've got loads to chuck at you. So we'll just jump straight into it. Steve, we'll start with you on the kind of, I guess, basically around the question of kind of second homes, and can I buy a shared ownership property as a second home?
Okay, so a shared ownership needs to be your principal residence, so it would need to be your home that you're going to be living in. You can, if you currently own a property, you would need to sell that to be able to be eligible for this one. So you aren't able to buy a shared ownership property as an investment to then rent out, or to move into that one and rent out your current property.
Yeah, so you basically need to be an owner occupier. You need to be living in the property.
You do. That's right. I'll just say on that. Sorry. You can actually not sublet, but rent out a room. So you could get a lodger. So if you had a 3-bedroom and you only needed 1 or 2, you would be able to rent out one of the rooms, as long as you're living there.
And I guess it's a good time as well to mention, as part of the eligibility criteria, that actually that kind of second home concept, like you can't own a home abroad either, because we get that as a lot of the time. We get that as a question, but I don't own in the UK, I own in Spain or Portugal or Germany or wherever else. And, but it's still that kind of, this is to help first time buyers and to help.
That's exactly it.
People to kind of get onto the property ladder. So perfect. Gary, we've had tons of mortgage questions, so we'll go in with one for this. Kind of a two-parter here. The first is, would I be able to buy a shared ownership property on behalf of my son or for my son? And if not, could I act as his guarantor instead?
Okay, so with guarantors, traditional guarantor mortgages, as we once thought about them, don't really exist in that way anymore. But there are schemes such as being a joint borrower sole proprietor, whereby potentially you can look at being sort of effectively a guarantor by doing the mortgage jointly. A joint borrower sole proprietor means that you would both be named on the mortgage, but only one of you would be named on the deeds of the property. And because only, assuming in this case your son would be named on the deeds of the property, your ownership of any other properties should not be an issue. Obviously, different lenders have different criteria, and for any further inquiries, I'd recommend coming onto our live chat, where one of our advisors will look into it for you with a bit more detail and give you a bit more background on the likely deposit that you would need.
Fantastic. So our next question that's come through, I guess kind of blends into both of what you just answered actually, is with shared ownership, can I have a joint application with a parent if they have paid off their existing mortgage on the family home?
So I'll take it first of all. I mean, yes, you would, as long as neither of you own a property, you would both be able to go on the mortgage together, which would be no problem at all.
Yeah, and to expand on that, the joint borrower sole proprietor would also be available. So, it's just an extension of the first question.
Perfect. So what I will say for the person that asked that, I think it was Jenny, the issue you have there is that you're talking about if your parent has paid their existing mortgage on the family home, but they would still need to sell that property before before you'd be able to purchase with your with your mum or dad, basically. Perfect. So another really interesting question: with shared ownership, are there any future costs other than purchasing additional shares? Is that more one for you, Steve?
Yeah, so there are ongoing costs. So you would have the rent, obviously, which will be ongoing. You'll also have the service charge. So all shared ownership does have a service charge. There would be the odd cost with when you do come to staircase, and that is the area where the main costs are. So every time you do staircase, you would have legal fees. I don't know what they are off the top of my head, but they aren't anything too excessive. But yeah, there would be some fees that are included in that. But other than that, there aren't any additional scary costs that are just going to jump out everywhere. It is your home.
Yeah, and I guess with the staircase, and the main thing is you also have to have your home valued, which you pay for and stuff. So it's those kind of things.
Yeah, so that'll be a good thing to touch on, actually. So when you have to have the home valued every time you staircase. So if the property value goes up, it may be the shares are more expensive than you originally paid for the shares, and when it may be they've gone down, and in case they're less. And when you go to sell the property again, you would need a new valuation. So if the property value has gone up, your share is worth more as well. So exactly the same.
But that's also great, I guess, for when it comes to selling, because if you're in an area, say like a big regeneration area, and you buy kind of at the forefront, and then over time, if whether you're selling 25% of your home or you've bought 100% and you sell that, you're making a profit. So,
exactly. And let's face it, house prices go up. They rarely go down, don't they? So
fab. So Gary, this will be one for you, and very topical because it's in regards to furlough. So can I still apply for a shared ownership mortgage whilst on flexible furlough? What if I find a second part-time job to increase my income? So another two-parter for you.
Okay, so with furlough, so as the original furlough scheme comes to an end, anybody currently still on furlough would generally not be able to get a mortgage using that income at the moment. Lenders haven't actually issued any guidance on the flexible furlough scheme, but you can imagine that, yes, they would want to know about it. They would probably want to know whether it's going to be coming to an end. If there is no end in sight, you may find that they have a few extra questions. So, yes, we can definitely see there'd be more challenges. To answer the second question about a second job will always help, but bear in mind that lenders have quite strict criteria around second jobs, whereby sometimes you have to have been in that job for a minimum period of time before they'll take that income into account. And the reason for that is quite simply they just want to be sure that that is reasonable to continue. If you're going to rely on that money or that job to afford your mortgage payments, it needs to be viable and realistic to continue in the long term, not just for the immediate future.
That's really good. And that kind of goes into another question we've had here, which is basically, if I'm on a 6-month contract with work, will this affect my ability to get a mortgage?
Everything affects your ability to get a mortgage, and this would be no different. So again, lots of lenders have lots of different criteria. Some of them are a little bit more friendly to contractors, some perhaps a little bit less so. Again, what I would say is that with any circumstances like that, hop onto that live chat, ask that question, and what we can do is we can tell you what lenders are available, what the likely deposits are, and how realistic it's going to be. I don't think the answer to any of these questions would ever be an absolute no immediately. It's more of a case of looking at the background to the circumstances, the bigger picture, and finding out a bit more about you as to whether it's going to fit with what the lenders do. Sometimes it can be a case of it would fit, but you need a bigger deposit, or it could be a case of it would fit, but maybe with a slightly lower loan amount, maybe. But everybody's situation is different, and we look at them on a case-by-case basis.
And that's so true. There's so many variables, especially when it comes to getting a mortgage and stuff. Like, we get a lot of questions about, what if I have some blips in my credit history, or if I have a CCJ, but like you said, it's never a flat out no. It's all very personal though. So you need to speak to your financial advisor or your broker and just kind of figure out what options work best for you. So I think that's really good for people to know is don't lose hope at the get-go.
Yeah, the adverse credit is a great one because a lot of people ask that exact question. And again, with adverse credit, it comes down to what exactly is registered, when it was registered, whether it's been settled. All these things feed into the lender's criteria. And of course, it stands to reason that the longer time since it was registered to now, the better. And of course, if it's settled, it's going to give you more options. So it's never going to be an absolute no or a definite yes, but it's a case of come and talk to us about your circumstances and we can then tell you whether there's somebody there that's going to fit for you or not.
Fantastic. Right, Steve, we'll come back over to you for this one. It's actually a Help to Buy question. So if I bought a Help to Buy property, but my circumstances changed, could I choose to rent out my home, so no longer be an owner-occupier?
Okay, so for Help to Buy, if you've still got the loan on it, it should be your principal home, like shared ownership. But once you've paid off that loan, it's your house to do whatever you wish with. So you can rent it out after that point. So you're not meant to rent it out while you do still have the loan. I do say that there are some some circumstances where you would be able to. So if you were perhaps in the military, for example, and posted abroad, that may be an exception. So it would be a case of looking case by case, but usually not really, unless you paid back the equity loan, in which case you're 100% occupier and there's no problem renting out.
And I guess it comes to, if you're ever unsure whether it's about, decorations or, can I do this or do that, or can I rent out my property, your first port call would always be just check the terms of your lease, both shared ownership and Help to Buy, I imagine, and then also just speak to your provider, be honest with them. They are there to make your life easier. And, we've had examples of exactly that. People have had to travel abroad for 6 months of work, and there's been a kind of temporary agreement put in place where, yes, you can rent out just for now, but it's, like you said, it's not necessarily viable for it to be the full time, because the eligibility is that you need this home. You need to be able to not buy a home that fits your needs on the open market. So this is helping you do that so that you can live there. Perfect. So Steve, again, probably one for you. Tashika has asked, how often can you staircase?
So you can staircase up to 4 times. So your 4th time would need to be the final staircasing. I usually recommend to try and do it as few times as you can. So as I said earlier, every time you do staircase, there will be charges, and despite not being significant, they are there. So you wouldn't want to just keep on buying really small chunks. You're better off trying to buy sort of 10-15 minimum % at a time, and then on your 4th one you would need to buy the remainder. So depending on what you buy in the first instance, if it's a 25% share you buy in the first instance, you'd probably need to aim for sort of 20% each time, whereas if it's a 75% you bought to start with, then you could maybe do a lot smaller shares.
We've got so many good questions coming in, so we'll try and get through a couple more for you guys. Gary, this is probably more one for you. So this is from Donna. Is the 5% deposit still available? As I've heard in the news that current inquiries are asking for about 10 to 15%.
Yeah, for shared ownership, there are potential options available with a 5% deposit. There is one very restrictive option available with at 100% loan to value, so 100% of the share. Although it's quite a restrictive deal. So typically you would say your minimum is going to be 5%. With Help to Buy, because the equity loan effectively forms part of your deposit and your mortgage loan to value is 75%, as long as you've got that 5% deposit and you qualify for the equity loan, then you're not going to have a problem finding a mortgage at that level at all. So I think on a broader perspective, lenders have, I wouldn't say have become more restrictive, but they've certainly been asking a few more questions. And the recent times with us being locked down, with COVID, etc., it's led to them being, I guess, jittery might be a good word here. And it's not because they're trying to slow the market down. It's because their priority is making sure that they're treating you fairly, making sure that the mortgage will be affordable. And therefore, their checks have just become a little bit more stringent recently. But again, with the right planning and with the right information and getting that over to us, we should be able to guide you through so that shouldn't really be too much of an issue. And of course, lenders largely working from home are experiencing some delays at the moment. And again, part of our job will be to find the lender that works for you and takes into account not just the cost, but also the service that they provide and how quickly they're going to run through as well. So when it comes to making a recommendation, there will be more than just a single facet that we focus on. But with the deposit, like I say, with a 5% deposit, whether it's Help to Buy or whether it's a shared ownership, there will be options there. But of course, it stands to reason the bigger deposit you can put in, the better, because you'll simply be borrowing less money, paying less interest, and overall opening up more options to you. Fantastic.
Loads of information there. So I hope that helped, Donna. Let's have a look here. We've got so many questions coming in. This is great, guys. Thank you. Steve, we'll pop over to you for this one. So I'm not sure whether to go for shared ownership or Help to Buy. Do you have any advice?
Oh, a great question.
Big question.
Yeah, it does depend what works best for you. It really isn't one size fits all. Some people, so like I said, shared ownership, you can only need a deposit on the share. So it might be that if you're buying a shared ownership for a 50% share, you might be able to get a 10% deposit on that, whereas on a help to buy, you might only have a 5% deposit, which might make the mortgage rate increase. And could make your monthly payments a little bit tighter. So it really isn't a one size fits all, and I think they're both great products. The only thing is, not every shared ownership property and help to buy property is not available on everyone. So it might be the location or the property type you're looking at is only available through shared ownership or help to buy. So when looking, it really is good to speak to a financial advisor and make sure you're eligible for both schemes and get sort of your max affordable availability for shared ownership and help to buy. And then that way you're looking for both, and you can really not rule anything out. So when you find the right property, hopefully you're able to go for it, no matter what product it is.
That's perfect. And exactly that. It's a lot of variables when you're looking to buy a house anyway, but it's just what works best for you. Like, I think there's often this confusion over, is help to buy and shared ownership the same thing? So luckily you covered this earlier. They are two separate things. Shared ownership is part by part rent. You need a much smaller deposit. Help to buy is an equity loan that's given to you, but you still need a more substantial deposit. So a lot of it will come down to costs. But exactly like you said, do your research into it, make sure that you're comfortable and that you understand your options before you kind of commit to anything. Perfect. And then we have kind of like a broad question here, which is basically, how is affordability calculated on shared ownership homes?
So as we alluded to previously, how much you're able to borrow will come down to your income. It will come down to what your fixed outgoings are. So things like the service charges will form a part of that affordability calculation. Any outstanding finance you have will also form a part of that calculation. Lenders broadly will lend anything between sort of 3 and 5 times income, but that doesn't mean that they're by any means a guarantee, and they could offer lower if the free income that's available from your salary after other commitments have been deducted, it may well be less than that. But that's where we would encourage you to come to our live chat, to speak to our advisors, make some time to go through that, and we can give you a clear guidance on what we can really do for you. As an aside, with help to buy, the maximum you will be able to borrow using help to buy would be 4.5 times your income. That also applies to shared ownership, but because of the rental element, typically the debt versus your free income ratio increases to a point where we generally don't get too close to that maximum with shared ownership. So, but like I say, I can't give you a one size fits all answer to that particular question, but like I say, it definitely comes down to incomes versus outgoings. And that's where our advisors will guide you through what you can and can't do.
Fab. So we'll end on a variation of we've had quite a few questions asking something similar. So Steve, you mentioned earlier that you can decorate a shared ownership home. How about kind of carrying out improvements, say if you wanted to build a driveway or build an extension in your home?
Yeah, of course. So let's touch on what you said earlier about speaking to the provider. So there's no no's or anything for this, but as we, so at Catalyst, we would own a share of it still. We wouldn't want you doing something that downvalued the property because we still own the share. So what you'd need to do is speak to the provider, and they'll be able to give you the information and say the yes and no's. It depends what it is as well. So if it is something bigger like extensions or things like that, you would need to get permission. However, we do get people asking whether they can put up shelves or make small adaptations like that, which are obviously absolutely fine. It's just anything more structural you'd need to get approval for. The only other thing I'd say is when buying a new build, you wouldn't want to do anything structural too early because it will invalidate your warranties. So it would be best to not look at that when you're buying a new build, and try and consider what you're thinking without doing that first of all.
Fab. And I guess if there was a no in place for something, say if you asked to rip up your flooring or change out to kind of a real wood or something like that, it could potentially be that there's underfloor heating and there's a reason, and your provider will be able to kind of explain why. If it's
exactly that, and so you wouldn't want to do something like that which could damage the property because you say you own the share as well. So you wouldn't want to do anything like that. So by speaking to us, it's security as much as anything else, that you know what you're doing is fine and you're able to do it, and you're not going to invalidate any warranties or anything like that.
Fantastic. Right. Well, I've kept you talking for so long. Thank you. The Q&A went longer than planned, but you've answered so many questions, and I think you've helped a lot of people. What I am going to do is just pop a slide up on the screen here with the URLs for both Catalyst and Meridian Mortgages, in case you have any questions about the homes discussed or other homes available, about Catalyst's upcoming virtual preview events, and the services offered by both Catalyst and Meridian. So feel free to get in touch with them after the session. And that's pretty much it for now. I just wanted to say a massive thank you to both Gary and Steve for joining me today. You've done a really great job and I think answered a lot of questions. So thank you. And also thank you to everyone in the audience who actually watched and asked questions. I can see there's been a lot of you. We hope you found this lunchtime session useful. So thank you for joining us on your lunch break as well, I imagine, for a lot of you. If you'd like to be kept up to date with any future webinars that we host, you can create an account with us at sharedby.com. Or you can keep an eye on the Shared by Facebook, Twitter and Instagram accounts, which we keep updated if there's any kind of other events coming up. But until next time, thank you again, and we hope you enjoy the rest of your day. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.